The Philippines' gross national income, or GNI, surpasses Thailand in 2024, making the country the second wealthiest nation in terms of accumulated national income in Southeast Asia after Indonesia, according to the latest economic data released by the World Bank. With an accumulated wealth of $518.1 billion, the Philippines outranked its neighbors. Thailand, whose rank fall into the third spot, with gross national income amounting to $510.2 billion. Followed by Vietnam with GNI amounting to $453.5 billion, Singapore GNI amounting to $451.2 billion, and Malaysia amounting to $414.9 billion. Indonesia remains in the region with the highest accumulated wealth amounting to $1,393.2 billion. Why is the Philippines' gross national income being significantly higher compared to its gross domestic product? Worth noting that among the major economies in Southeast Asia, known as the Asean 6, only the Philippines has a bigger gross national income compared to its gross domestic product. Philippines' GNI is $56.5 billion higher compared to its GDP. GDP, gross domestic product, and GNI, gross national income, are both important economic indicators used to measure the economic performance and income generation of a country, but they differ in the scope of their measurements and what they include. GDP is the total monetary value of all goods and services produced within a country's borders during a specific period, typically a quarter or a year. GNI, on the other hand, is the total monetary value of all income earned by a country's residents, individuals and businesses, from both domestic and foreign sources during a specific period. GNI is computed by adding its gross domestic product by the net income from abroad. Net income from abroad is the difference between income earned by the country's residents from overseas, deducting the income earned by foreign residents within the country. It only means that the Philippines, both their businesses and citizens, earned more wealth from abroad compared to the wealth earned by foreign businesses and citizens operating and working within the Philippines. Huge factor is coming from the Filipino working abroad, whose earning significantly increases the Philippines' gross national income. Overseas Filipino workers sent over $38.3 billion in remittances back to the Philippines in 2024. Marking a 3% increase from the $37.2 billion recorded in 2023. This new high, as reported by the Central Bank of the Philippines, underscores the vital role of the overseas Filipino worker and remittances play in the Philippine economy. The impact of these remittances on the Philippine economy is substantial. In 2024, they represented 8.3% of the country's gross domestic product (GDP) and 7.4% of its gross national income, highlighting their importance as a key economic driver. The bulk of these remittances, amounting to $34.5 billion, were sent through formal banking channels, also demonstrating a 3% year-on-year increase. The primary sources of these cash remittances were the United States, Singapore, and Saudi Arabia, with the U.S. remaining the largest contributor. On a global scale, the Philippines ranked fourth among the top remittance-receiving countries in 2024, according to the World Bank. The estimated inflow of $40 billion placed the Philippines behind India, $129 billion, Mexico, $68 billion, and China, $48 billion, but ahead of Pakistan, $33 billion. This ranking further emphasizes the significant contribution of Filipino workers abroad to both their families' livelihoods and the national economy. The substantial inflow of remittances provides crucial support for domestic consumption, investment, and overall economic stability in the Philippines. Sustained economic recovery in the U.S., Middle East, and Asia-Pacific led to higher wages and employment opportunities for OFWs, boosting remittances. Also, the weak Philippine peso against the US dollar in certain months increased the monetary value of remittances, prompting some OFWs to send more money home. Remittances are likely to remain a stable growth driver amid more favorable exchange rates that could encourage higher remittance volumes. However, this can be disrupted by geopolitical tensions or economic downturns in host countries could affect job security. Overall, remittances are expected to maintain modest growth in 2025, barring major economic disruptions. The steady inflows will continue to support household spending, helping drive consumption-led growth. The Philippines is often referred to as a country from which the export of services rather than manufactured goods is the principal engine for economic growth. As the share of the service sector of the country's gross domestic product has exceeded that of the industry and agricultural sectors combined. In the first quarter of 2025, the service sector contributes to about 62.2%, while the industrial sector contributes 29.5%, and agriculture, forestry, and fishing contribute about 8.3% to the country's economy. The IT BPO industry and the services provided by overseas Filipino workers constitute to almost 20% of the country's GDP. According to the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines, the total IT BPO headcount reached 2 million in 2025, with revenues for the sector rising to $40 billion. For the record, the country holds 10% market share of the global IT BPO market. Personal remittances to the Philippines sent by Filipinos abroad are rapidly growing. According to the World Bank, the Philippines is expected to be among the top recipients of remittances this year, with money sent from overseas seen to reach $40 billion. These remittances came over from 11 million Filipinos worldwide, working or residing outside the country. The Filipino diaspora is one of the largest and most spread out in the world. Indeed, it is estimated to consist of over 10% of the country's population. Countries with the highest Filipino population are the United States, Canada, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Japan. The outlook for the Philippines' economy over the next decade is very favorable, with significant progress in economic development is expected. Rapidly rising per capita GDP and standards of living will help to underpin a broad improvement in human development indicators, and will deliver a significant reduction in the share of the population living in extreme poverty over the decade ahead. Sustained remittance inflows from workers abroad, fast-growing IT BPO sector exports, and the recovery of the tourism sector are also expected to support economic growth in the next coming decades. The Philippines may also be benefited on the multi-billion-dollar U.S. investment on its oil and gas industry. A joint exploration within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone in the South China Sea is expected as Philippine companies that have been given concessions in the area have been seeking potential partners in the U.S. for a joint venture in the exploration of energy sources. On the other hand, Washington has remained committed to expanding its investments in the semiconductor and IT BPO sector. Another potential U.S. investment into the country from Seattle-based Ultra-Safe Nuclear Corporation will be the potential development of the small modular nuclear power plants in the Philippines, as the United States is keen to develop the country's energy sector. With a solid reform agenda and unabating growth amid headwinds, the Philippines is ready to take off as a leading investment hub. The Philippines is projected to be the 23rd largest economy by 2039, according to the latest edition of the World Economic League table, published by London-based think tank Center for Economics and Business Research. The latest edition of the World Economic League table published by London-based think tank Center for Economics and Business Research, only 3 nations from the Southeast Asia were among the top 30 biggest global economies by 2039. These are Indonesia, which ranked 10th, the Philippines ranked at number 23, and Vietnam ranked at number 25. The report highlights the steady economic growth of the Philippines amid global challenges. Among the 189 economies analyzed, the Philippines' rise underscores its increasing competitiveness and resilience in key sectors, driven by domestic consumption, robust remittances, and a growing labor force. The projection is a significant improvement for the country, jumping 10 places over the next 15 years from 33rd rank out of 189 economies in 2024. This means that the Philippines will surpass Thailand and Singapore in the coming years, becoming the second biggest economy in Southeast Asia, next only to Indonesia. With strong growth forecast over the medium-term outlook, the size of the Philippines' GDP measured in US dollar nominal terms is set to reach $1 trillion by 2033. According to the report issued by S&P Global Market Intelligence. This will make the Philippines one of the largest emerging markets in the Asia-Pacific as well as a leading emerging market globally. The average annual GDP per person has also risen dramatically over the past 2 decades, from below $1,000 per person in $2000 to $3,500 by 2022, and is projected to rise above $6,000 per person by 2030. The Philippines' economy is forecast to continue to grow rapidly, with total GDP doubling from $400 billion in 2022 to $800 billion in 2030. A key growth driver will be rapid growth in private consumption spending, buoyed by strong growth in urban household incomes. By 2033, the Philippines is forecast to become one of the Asia-Pacific region's small group of $1 trillion economies, joining mainland China, Japan, India, South Korea, Australia, Taiwan, and Indonesia in this grouping of the largest economies in APAC. The Philippines is poised to become the world's 18th biggest economy by 2050, as long as it addresses its infrastructure lack. A long-term projection, made by London-based macroeconomic research organization, Capital Economics. As projected, the Philippines' nominal gross domestic product, GDP climbing to $4,862 billion, 3 decades from now. Such that nominal GDP per capita would also rise to $33,650. The Philippines is also set to become the leading investment destination in Asia. With a solid reform agenda and unabating growth amid headwinds, the Philippines is ready to take off as a leading investment hub. The country is eyeing around $100 billion in investment deals in the next 5 to 10 years from the United States and Japan. These would cover a range of different sectors including energy, semiconductors, infrastructure, and digital economy. Tokyo has been the nation's most reliable development partner, with its massive development commitments in improving the Philippines' railway infrastructure such as the Metro Manila Subway and the North-South Commuter Railway project. The huge 2 infrastructure project alone cost more than $25 billion, which more than 80% will be financed by Japan. On the other hand, Washington has remained committed to expanding its investments in the semiconductor and IT BPO sector, both of which have been massive drivers of year-on-year growth. There is an opportunity for the Philippines to attract investments, particularly from US and Japanese firms, that might leave China in the wake of the political tension in the West Philippine Sea. Philippines' increasing bond with the US and Japan could significantly boost Manila's positioning as an investment destination.